SN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. The date is January 6th, 2016. Things are starting to heat up all over as expected. The Yuan, God, you name it. The crashing currencies, all-time low Baltic Dry Index, and much more. And Andrew Hoffman, you are with us now once again, and
Yes.
Always great to have you on.
And how about the Brent oil now at a 2004 low? And remember, Brent oil is far more important than even WTI because that's that's what is being transported to. There's more of it coming out of the world. It's coming out of Europe and it's being sent everywhere. And there's many more oil indices that use that as a benchmark than WTI crude. And now Brent, because the U.S. Congress in its infinite wisdom lifted the age-old export ban on oil, the U.S. shale companies, which have nowhere to sell their oil around here, are shipping it all overseas and destroying the Brent oil price too. So it shouldn't surprise anyone, per what I wrote in October 2014's crashing oil prices portend unspeakable horrors, that we're on the brink of war everywhere, including now Saudi Arabia and Iran. And North Korea's got its bomb. We got Syria and ISIS. I mean, look at this, what's going on in with this Muslim, not even Muslim, just generally speaking, the migrancy crisis in Europe. They were talking about in Germany over New Year's Eve, there were, hundreds, maybe 1,000, kind of wilding incidents, which they're blaming rightly or wrongly on Muslims. And, so the point is you're seeing a real breakdown in the fabric of geopolitics and the fabric of society, especially in places where, not coincidentally, their currencies have collapsed. And with each passing day, more and more currencies are falling apart. And this is what I said 2 years ago. I said that the head of the totem pole is $1 simply because it's more liquid, not because there's anything better about it, because it's the reserve currency and there's more out there. In times of crisis, people flock to it. And I've said that it's going to soar because everything falls apart first. And that's exactly what's happening across the board. I mean, I can name 10 currencies right now, big currencies, Indian rupee, Canadian dollar, Brazilian real, South African rand, Russian ruble, you name it, across the board that are collapsing. And now you're seeing, for what we're going to talk about later, the black market price, currency prices overriding the official market prices. That is exactly what happened in Venezuela a few months ago. It's what happened in Argentina, in Kazakhstan, and then in Angola. All three of them in the last 2 weeks, where the government had to devalue the currency to where the black market currency was trading because they couldn't support the veneer that there was an actual official price that was higher. And that's exactly what today's article, no one in the mainstream media is going to write about this. So only Zero Hedge. You turn on CNBC this morning and all they say is stocks fall because Korea has a nuclear bomb. No, stocks are falling. I mean, aside from the fact that they are the most historically overvalued bubbles of all time and they're collapsing upon themselves as they should, let alone as the stupid Fed talks about raising rates. They're falling because the Chinese PBOC, as I said back in September, has lost control of the offshore yuan. Now, again, back in September, I wrote an article called the most dangerous destabilizing force on earth. And I was referring to the Chinese government and its attempt to devalue the yuan gradually. And of course, they started with the 5 or 6% devaluation in August, which, by the way, I predicted 24 hours in advance. And since then, they've been very slowly just meandering back and forth, 1% or 2%. Then, of course, in November, at the end of November, when they were accepted into that ridiculous strategic currency basket, they've been devaluing now every day, more each day, more each day, more each day. Last night, they devalued a whole 0.5%. In one day. This is for a fixed currency. It's a big deal. But more importantly, what I wrote in September in the Dangerous Destabilizing Force article, I said they are going to get destroyed. It's the Keystone Cops Act of all time. They're trying to support the black market yuan market while they're slowly devaluing the actual yuan market, and they're going to lose. And last night, while they did this devaluation of the onshore yuan, the offshore yuan plunged, meaning it doesn't matter how much they arrest people and make it illegal to short They are losing this war against reality, just like what happened in Argentina and Venezuela and Kazakhstan and Angola. And again, there's a reason why back in August I said that the upcoming Chinese Yuan devaluation will be the most cataclysmic financial big bang to end all big bangs. The currency war is going thermonuclear, and the powers that be are losing to the speculators right now. This is a major, major event today, because you're going to look up maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year from now, and see the yuan 20, 30, 40% lower than it is today. And you're going to see that all the commodity prices collapse even more as they export their deflation over here. You're going to see draconian government responses and, of course, more money printing. So that's the story of what's happened just in the first week of 2016.
Well, you know what they say, when in doubt, print money. If still in doubt, print more money.
Yeah, and it's just so amazing, that the Fed, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, that they actually, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that they basically got together in October, as bad as things were economically, and said, if we don't raise rates by even just a quarter point, everyone's going to call our bluff, because we've been talking for 2.5 years about how the economy is recovering and we're going to raise rates. So even though the things got much worse, especially after the August devaluation of the yuan, when the commodities and currencies really started plunging, they just did it anyway. And yesterday, one of the Fed governors is on TV laughing with Steve Leisman. The economy is in great shape. And yeah, we can definitely raise rates 3 or 4 times during 2016. I mean, how detached from reality can they be? I mean, we're talking about right now, as we speak today, the commodity index has just plunged to a new 40-year low. Everything. The only commodities with quotes around it that are up are gold and silver. Everything is getting slaughtered. Oil's about to go under $34 a barrel. Base metal is getting crushed. Everything is being destroyed. The Baltic Dry Index, new all-time low. Look at all the horrible economic data, factory orders, PMI, even services, manufacturing. And the irony of it all is, the one number that was good, which came minutes after they said that mortgage applications fell like 35% last week. ADP comes out with its ridiculous employment report saying there were 257,000 jobs in December. And this is with every piece of data collapsing upon them. The Fed, their own GDP estimator, the GDP now is basically at 0 for the fourth quarter. And they try to tell us that there was this massive job surge. I don't know if it's seasonal. I wrote in my thing today, is it the double seasonal adjustments? Did they add a birth-death model? Are they now calling panhandlers employed? I mean, how could they possibly? I mean, I thought the BLS was bad. And there's a reason why I call the job reports the island of lies. I wrote that 2 or 3 years ago. But this is just so staggeringly ridiculous. It caused, I remember, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, and everyone should listen to my audio blog from last week, my 2014 and 15 wrap up and 2016 predictions. But it was either last year or the year before where I said there's going to be a total credibility loss in the unemployment numbers. I mean, between the labor participation rate and the birth-death model and stuff like this and ADP, they can't figure out whether they're always changing it to try to get it to what the BLS report is. At some point, people are going to ignore entirely the unemployment report. I am so sick. I've been in Wall Street for 25 years, and I've never seen one piece of meaningless, lagging, manipulated data have so much attention paid to it. And the funny thing is they pay attention because the Fed says in everything they say, all they talk about is labor, labor, labor. But if anyone remembers when it was just a year and a half ago, when the Fed said, once the unemployment rate goes below 6.5%, we will raise rates. And then they backed out, and now we're at 5%. I mean, it's unbelievable how anyone listens to this stuff anymore. And everything else, not just here, but all around the world, is screaming, not 2008, but as I've said, the worst global economy of our lifetimes. And when I wrote that article, 3 or 4 months ago, that was nothing compared to where we are today. Things are much worse today than they were 3 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a psychic to figure this one out, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, sure. All I could, again, as I said, the end game couldn't be more clear. There's nothing that will reverse it. It really, to me, it's at the point where the only questions I have is, will we have world war? Will we have martial law? Will there be riots in the streets? And it's not even an Armageddon. I don't mean it's the whole world and everywhere is going to be like a bad movie. I mean, you're seeing this happen everywhere. Look at a country like Brazil. This is a sophisticated nation, right? They're impeaching the president. They probably won't have the Olympics this year. They're at civil unrest. A country like Greece, the cradle of democracy. Puerto Rico just defaulted again today. That's $73 billion, which we, the United States, have to back for anyone who thinks Puerto Rico is no big deal, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there is going to be so much bad. And I always try to be the optimist, and I try to be even keeled. You could see the emotion I have, particularly today, and hence my old moniker, Ranting Andy, from way back when. But it's just so obvious to me what terrible things are about to happen. I just don't know what and how and when. I just know that a lot of it has already started in many parts of the world. A lot of it is here. I mean, there's an article today I just saw. The study came out that said 63% of Americans could not handle an emergency $500 of expenses. Did you see that article?
Yeah, I saw it. It was shocking, but not surprising.
$500. That means your refrigerator breaks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or
your child
what happens if your heat goes down?
Yeah.
Your heat or your AC.
63%. Yeah. So if anyone doesn't realize that, I mean, we're going to go communist, we're going to go fascist, we're going to go socialist. All that stuff is coming here rapidly. We're going to have 50, 60% tax rates like they do in Europe, like they do in Canada, everywhere. We're going to have all that stuff. And the question is, you see what's going on in Oregon, and with Texas, the new Obama has his gun control, and the governor says, I dare you to take our guns. And, and there's people fighting back. And this is in the country where the currency has not yet plunged. Think about what it's like in Europe right now, where you have a quarter of Spain wants to secede. England the UK is gonna break from the European Union later this year, most likely, and then Scotland will break from the United Kingdom. And look what's going on in the elections that just happened in France and Portugal and Spain. I mean, it's everywhere right now, and these are the sophisticated first world civilized places. And then I see, you see all this currencies, and everyone, no one's even talking anymore about emerging market currencies like this is something going on in the third world. We're talking Canada, Australia, Europe, Japan, now China. All these places, the currencies are in free fall. And what's going to be the response? As you said, they're going to print more money. And, it's almost, I just can't even comprehend getting through 2016 without the Yellen reversal. I just can't comprehend it. I can't see how they can get through another full year. And it's an election year, which will make things even more excited, President Trump. But the point is, I can't see them getting through a whole year without it just falling apart and the Fed coming to the rescue of the markets and causing even more dangerous, debilitating situations.
Yeah, there's nothing bright on the horizon. Maybe you weren't even talking about what's happening with the iPhone with Apple.
Yeah, I mean, today I 30%. Said I had so much to say about this Chinese thing that I said, here are the minor headlines, the minor horrible headlines from today, all of which would destroy a freely traded market on their own. And one of them, as you say, and this is not the new news. This was already kind of leaked out last week that the iPhone is having poor sales. But as you said, it's now reported that they're cutting shipments by 30% for the first quarter. This is the number one largest company in the world. The Wall Street will hold out as the reason why everything is so great and stock markets should be overvalued. We're talking about a gigantic, massively mature company. I don't care what anyone says. They're not going to change the world with phones, with watches and cars. They make smartphones. Forget even laptops. The business of Apple is and always will be smartphones. They invented the smartphone, it's matured, and now we have a crash of global economy, and those things cost too much and everyone has them. That's the end of Apple as a growth story. And Apple is the largest company in the world. So for anyone who thinks that the NASDAQ is going to sit up here, I'd say 5,000, but now it's 4,800. In these 2000 era, like 1999, 2000 era levels, because of one stupid company that makes something which is become as ubiquitous as the buggy whip. I mean, everyone has a smartphone. There's no growth in smartphones anymore. Just shows you that if you're investing in the stock market at this point, based on that stuff, you really need to rethink your views.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can only sell so many of them to the unsuspecting public here.
And to the Chinese. I mean, that's where the growth has been. That's what everyone says. The rest of the world's died. Europe died. The United States consumer demand died. Look at retail. Look at this year. Wait till we get this year's retail holiday spending numbers and the associated layoffs and losses. But I mean, it's all about, well, we're going to sell to China. No, China is the biggest, as I said, the most dangerous destabilizing force in the world. It's collapsing. It's the biggest Ponzi scheme, the biggest bubble of all the bubbles combined. Everything done in the United States, which I talk about for years and years, right? Doesn't compare to the bubble in there. And on top of that, it's run by a bunch of career bureaucrats who don't even have a semblance, an inkling, an understanding in the slightest of what they're doing. And on top of that, because they have to $1.5 billion mouths to feed, they don't even think in terms of pretending to be capitalists. They are communists through and through. They have no idea what they're doing. And they've taken this, the only thing that China has done that's smart, and it really wasn't so much smart as that's what they've done for thousands of years, is buy gold. Because, and everyone should read, by the way, like David Morgan's new book, Silver Manifesto, and we're going to do a webinar about everything, where he talks about the history. I mean, China has destroyed more fiat currencies. They had the first one, and they've destroyed more than anyone else. Those people, and even the top people in the government, are all aware. Everyone knows that you need to buy gold. So while they're going to destroy their country, they're going to wind up with all the gold. And they're going to wind up with all the power sometime in the future. But I mean really the future. We're not talking about, it could be 10, 20 years before all this settles and everyone looks up and says, well, they got the gold and everyone wants gold. So they're going to set the new standard. But that's a long time in the future.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for years as well. And it's just going to be a chain reaction. I see this as occurring, just one thing after the next, literally.
And that's what it's been. I mean,
the dominoes,
It's been a chain reaction for so long, but because of all this market manipulation, I mean, they've had 7 years, but particularly the last 2 or 3 years. And I go back to that meeting. I mean, I'll never forget the impact that it's personally had on my life since that day. I mean, it was April 2013. Obama has his. Again, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but Obama has this closed door meeting with the heads of the top 10 too big to fail banks. They wrote it in the media. It's a closed door meeting with Lloyd Blankfein and Jamie Dimon and him. I mean, what on earth are they talking about, right? Have you ever heard that, ever reported that he was having a closed door meeting, let alone with private industry? And that very day, Goldman Sachs puts out an article, a recommendation to, quote, aggressively short gold. And then the next two, that was a Thursday. And then Friday and Monday, we have what I call the alternative currencies destruction, where they took gold down by like, I don't know, $200 and silver by like $8. And from that day on, the manipulation of markets has been ridiculous. That was, by the way, it coincided exactly with when the term tapering came around, and that kind of this propaganda scheme of, well, we're going to, stop QE and raise rates and everything's fine. It was from that day on that every second, every nanosecond of every day has been dedicated to manipulating every aspect of every market. I mean, look at this. The Dow, again, it's now down only 160. There has been about 1,000 pieces of bad news today across the board. And as usual, all the markets are crashing, but the PPT just keeps fighting and fighting and fighting. And the gold cartel keeps fighting, but they're losing. They're losing so many wars on so many fronts. There's a reason I wrote Last to Go Markets I said paper gold and the Dow will be the last two to go, just like the dollar will be the last currency to go. They've lost everything. Stock markets around the world are in bear markets. The US stock market's in a bear market. The only thing that's not is the indices with the biggest stocks in it. The average stock is down more than 20%. The average market around the world is getting crushed. In dollar terms, and we talked about this last week, GDP is back to depression levels. And in dollar terms, the average stock market is not just in a bear market, it's getting slaughtered right now. Again, they are down to the last pieces of ammo. The propaganda is not working. The market manipulation has broken in almost every aspect. The money printing, I mean, how could anyone think that anything that these guys have done has worked? They're printing more money and things are getting worse. So again, we're on fumes right now. We're on fumes. And, if you don't have physical gold and silver and you are afforded a lot of countries, you can't buy it now between the VAT taxes and the restrictions and regulations. If you live in Brazil right now or Russia, where the price of gold is exploding, I bet you couldn't buy an ounce if you tried. But here you still can. And you could buy it at this subsidized price. And remember, the shortages crop up quick. We had this massive shortage in silver, July, August, September this year. You think another one's not coming right now? I mean, it's unbelievable that people are sitting so lethargically. And that's why they hold the stock market up, because that's what keeps them in their stupor. If the stock market is falling, then everyone will come and buy the gold and it'll be gone in 2 seconds like it was in 2008. And you have the opportunity to protect yourself with gold and silver while you still can at these subsidized prices. And the last thing I'll say, Kerry, today is, again, I've been doing these podcasts now on not just here, but everywhere for free forever. And on this website for, close to 4 years. People, if you are interested in buying gold and silver, I really would appreciate if you would give Miles Franklin a chance to earn your business. I mean, we've been around 27 years. We have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. There's not a single registered complaint against us in 27 years of business. You get our free blog. I'll talk to you personally. We got experienced salespeople. We're an honorable organization. Just give us a call. Send me an email. Say, hey, I'm just thinking about this. I have some questions. And we'll answer your questions. And that's the end of that.
Absolutely. And my personal dealings, I'm a customer of Miles Franklin too, have only been positive. Can't say enough good things about you guys. And hey, this could be your last chance, but probably not. But who knows?
Yeah, and again, the same to you, Kerry. Your site is spectacular. You work harder than anyone in the blog business, and it's paying off because people are listening.
Oh, absolutely. We had our largest audience last month. Since we've been in business, and it's obvious that that something is wrong, and if you've listened to this show at all, you should have a pretty good picture of what it is that's wrong, and you should do something about it for sure. So, on that note, Andy, hey, the new year is heating up really quick, and go over, check out Andy's work, milesfranklin.com, get his daily missive, get his frequent audio blogs, and hey, you'll always find a link from here, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We're collecting these stories, and I'll tell you what, our webmaster, Stefan, is having a lot of problems just keeping up with the stories. It's so hard to pick them, which one's more important than the other. So we'll just throw them all in and let you decide. But you need to be aware
Kerry,
of this.
on that note, I've never had to do this before. Every day now, I'm just sending myself a to-read file because there's so many in a given day that I feel like I got to look at them. I've never had this before, where there were so many horrible headlines that I couldn't keep up with them. It's very, very hard to do, and it's only going to get crazier.
Yeah. Well, hey, the proof that things are going fast is I don't remember the last story I saw about the Kardashians. Right? When was the last one you saw?
15 minutes are over.
Yeah, it seems like it, boy. It's when
and for that matter, all that stuff, you're not hearing about anyone anymore, even in the entertainment world. You're just not hearing these things. People don't care. People are so stressed out by the fact that they can't handle the next $500 cost. They're not even watching reality TV anymore. People are just trying to figure out how to get by. And it's so, I mean, it's a net positive, that's for sure, that they're not watching the Kardashians. But, it's really sad because so many people have been affected by the actions of a few here, a few in Europe, a few in Japan, China, and we all got to band together with the people we do trust to get through what's going to be a very difficult period.
Yeah, totally. It's so amazing what's happening. I never believed I'd live to see all this turmoil, but hey, when all of the world's large companies go bankrupt. The only bright note here, Andy, and it's really not a bright note if you perceive it properly, car sales last year set a record, but, big deal. So car sales set a record.
A record? Well, for one, they've set a record only because of record inventories. I mean, we're talking about blowing away anything we've seen at any time in the past. Part of it's because government Motors still has its socialist impact on General Motors, but it's everywhere. I mean, there's more cars than you can imagine. And the fact is all the sales have been subprime. I mean, it's all subprime. It's all leases. It's all these extended loans. They're to 10-year loans above the value. I mean, and they're all depreciating. It's a disaster that will be as big as the mortgage crisis. All this stuff will, let alone what's going on in the junk bonds and the shale oil and all that stuff. This all is going to dwarf the mortgage business. And by the way, December auto sales, timely comment you made, came out yesterday, and it was the biggest miss since November 2009. I mean, it was a massive plunge in December sales after this great year, because that bubble has burst also. And by the way, who the biggest drop was? Volkswagen. May they pardon me, go to hell. Because I said back then when that Dieselgate thing, I wrote Secular Events, I did that audio blog. I said, this thing is going to destroy Germany. It's going to destroy Volkswagen. Volkswagen is like the biggest company in Germany, or one of the 2 or 3 biggest, has 250,000 employees. People around the world will hate them. And and let's face it, Americans they innately hate Germans because of World War I and World War II. Not to mention there's a massive cultural divide. I mean, the average German's views on the world and culture is so different from Americans to start with. And we had the 2 wars, and then you have, Jews who hate them, and, everyone else in Europe hates them because they've been the most, aggressive, invasive force in the history of outside of England in history. So, you take it that their biggest company, it turns out to be a giant fraud trying to defraud people everywhere. No one's going to buy Volkswagen again. If you bought a Volkswagen anytime in the last 5 years, 6 years, and you still own it, you just had your resale value destroyed by what they did. So, you think that things are bad here. Wait till you see the impact just of this one Volkswagen thing, which, by the way, the company had the gall to blame on a couple of rogue engineers.
Right. Yeah. It was.
So that's the end of that.
That was a concerted conspiracy there. Come on. Right. Rogue employees. It was came from the top.
Yes, of course it
came from
did.
the top. There's not even a question about it. And it's not even worth getting into.
And by the way, I don't hate Germans. I don't hate any person. I meet any person. I give them the same benefit of the doubt, no matter what race, religion, ethnicity, all that stuff. But generally speaking, Americans have a beef with Germans, and so do a lot of other people. And this is only going to make things worse. Remember, they are the glue. They are the, quote, reserve currency equivalent of Europe. They're the glue that holds together the euro, and they're falling apart. I mean, did anyone see the headline of the 1,000 rapes that went on New Year's Eve that they're blaming on Muslims? I mean, Angela Merkel's going to get lynched. It's the same thing's going to happen there. You're going to get some, very radical people take over, and they're going to want to get out of the euro. And, Europe is going to really, really fall apart. I mean, shouldn't surprise anyone. But, that's what happens when economies fall apart. Things that are held together by glue and Band-Aids and tape fall apart. And that's held more loosely together than anything else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very true. It was awful what happened there. New Year's, and the government's doing nothing to address it, which is to be expected. Let's face it. This is what governments do. They don't react until they absolutely have to, if then. And hey, we're in for quite a 2016. Better be ready. Better be prepared. This is what we've been talking about for 4.5 years now. And where it's going to go, nobody knows. But the signs are really, you can't ignore them anymore.
That's right. So this time we'll finally end this.
Well, for better or for worse, I think you're correct.
Yes.
We're going to see something happen here. And it's just a question of how bad and when. But there are things you can do, things you can prepare for, and get those skills. That's the first thing. You need the skills, survival skills. That really is the key. Anyway, Andy, we will talk to you next week. Be well.
Looking forward to it. You too.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.